Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to welcome you to the 17th Annual International Conference, Inproforum 2023, which is organized by the Faculty of Economics of the University of South Bohemia in České Budějovice. My name is Ladislav Rolínek and I am Vice Dean of Science and Research of the Faculty of Economics, and I am the chairman of the conference organizing committee. The theme of this year's conference is related to the current situation in economic system, challenges and opportunities in the digital world. The theme follows the general concept of the conference, which we set together with Professor Hrabánková, the first dean of our faculty. This concept is part of the name of the conference, Inproforum, which is an acronym of the Czech words Innovation, Enterprises and Regions. This year's conference is organized under the auspices of Dean of our faculty, Associate Professor Zuzana Dvořáková-Líšková. Let me now introduce our guest keynote speakers. First of all, I would like to apologize the rector of the University of South Bohemia, Professor Bohumil Jiroušek. He has some other duties. I welcome here the Dean of the Faculty of Economics, Associate Professor Zuzana Dvořáková-Líšková. I warmly welcome the keynote speakers of the plenary session, Associate Professor Dorota Molek-Viňarská. She is from Faculty of Business and Management, Wrocław University of the Economics and Business from Poland. And Dr. Jan Kalina, PhD. He is from the Czech Academy of Sciences, Institute of Computer Science, Institute of Information Theory and Automation. And now I would like to give the floor to the Dean for the first speech. Please have the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, colleagues, and students, I am deeply honored and intrigued to open the conference today with the name Challenges and Opportunities in the Digital World. The subject of today's conference is of paramount importance as it affects each and every of us. It doesn't matter if we come from the field of technology, education, healthcare, or another sector. We live in the era of the digital revolution, which influences every aspect of our lives. Therefore, it is important for us to address these issues and see ways to harness the challenges that the digital world presents and at the same time minimize the risks. The digital world presents numerous challenges such as cybersecurity, personal data protection, ethical concern, related to artificial intelligence and automation, and many others. These challenges require our full attention and collective effort to find solutions that will not only serve us, but also future generations. However, we must not forget the incredible opportunities that the digital world offers to us. Digitization opens up new possibilities for education, communication, research, and innovation. It can help address global challenges such as climate change and provide tools for creating a better world. I am confident that this conference will allow us to discuss these issues and share knowledge and ideas. I encourage all of you to actively participate and engage in open exchanges of opinions. Together, we can discover innovative approaches to addressing the challenges and seizing the opportunities that the digital world presents. This conference is an opportunity to build bridges between the academic world, industry, and public administration. Our collective effort and collaboration can bring positive changes and innovations that will benefit society as a whole. I would like to express my gratitude to all the speakers who are going to share their expertise with us today, and to all the participants who are here to contribute to this vital discussion. I look forward to the intriguing presentation along with fruitful discussions that will await us during this conference. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to the amazing presentation, discussions, and new insights which this conference will bring. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the first speech of Dean of our faculty, docentka Zuzana Dvořáková-Líšková, and we would now move on to the presentations of keynote speakers. Yes, and I would like to ask Associate Professor Dorota Molek-Viňarská to make her presentation. Yes, please have the floor.
What happened?
What's wrong? Because, okay, may I please you for your password?
Okay. 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 It's always like that. Okay, not a problem. So good morning, everyone. My name is Dorota Molek-Viňarská. I'm from Wrocław University of Economics and Business. Wrocław is in southwestern part of Poland, so quite near to our mutual border. And today I'm supposed to talk something about cost and consequences of work-related stress and a little bit about stress management. But before I start, I would like to thank the organizer for inviting me and for giving me this opportunity to say something about the topic I have been dealing with for more than 20 years now. So, cost and consequences of work-related stress. I'm a psychologist, especially occupational health psychologist, but I work, and I work in University of Economics, so I work with economics as well as a specialist in management, so I should say something about cost and about benefits and about investment and about finances of related with the topic that is a human topic, that is a topic about our mental health. So I try to combine those two things together, those two disciplines together, and give you some short information about cost and consequences of stress. As I told you, I have been dealing with this issue for 20 years now, so I think that I'm quite experienced in stress management and quite experienced in consequences of stress. So this is how a person with 20 years of experience of stress looks like. I'm survived. I'm still alive, so so I can say something about this. So before I start talking about costs of and consequences of stress, it would be beneficial for all of us to say something about stress. Of course, I have no time to talk about all the issues or approaches related to stress, but two approaches are crucial when we talk about consequences of stress. So this psychological approach, and cost of stress, this more economic approach. So we all experience stress, and it is hard to say that we should get rid of this, because we know from one approach that stress is inevitable. We need stress because this is the natural reaction. Probably you've heard, or some of you heard about Hans Selye. He was a Canadian physician who conducted research on soldiers that had come back from some kind of war experience, war period, and after a couple of weeks they died. Yeah? And this was the beginning of talking about stress as a reaction. Selye said that stress is a non-specific reaction to all requirements of the human organism, and everything that triggers stress is called stressor. Selye, as a physician, had been dealing more with the physiological stress, and his idea came from the idea or from the theory of homeostasis. So it means that our organism needs homeostasis, it means balance, yeah? And everything which disturbs that balance is called stressor. And organisms do everything, want to do everything to restore that balance, yeah? And no matter the stressor is the weather condition, drug, strong emotions, or pain, our organism react to this, yeah, and want to restore that balance. For example, if we cut ourselves with a knife, we can observe that there is bleeding, but after a couple of minutes, it's stopping, yeah, because our organisms do everything to stop it, to stop this perturbation, this lack of balance. And it's the same with our mind and with our physiological reactions towards stressors. Selye even said that it's more like a process or different types of reactions, non-specific reactions. It is starting with this alarm state. So our organism at the beginning is not prepared yet to this struggling with the stressor. But after a very short period, we are going to this resistance state. It means that our organism is very well prepared. It is not our natural state of relaxation or resting. It's very, very high. It's increased in these preparations of struggling with these stressors. What is going on in this resistant state? For example, our heart is beating faster, our blood pressure is higher, our muscles are tense, our pupils are wide open, so our digestive system stops working because the energy is accumulated in muscles. So this resistant state means that we are, or our organism is prepared. Prepared to what? To great effort, to great physical effort. We are prepared to this, what we call fight or flight effect. Yeah? So in a natural situation, the organism is prepared to escape or to fight. So it means to survive or to struggle or to prevent or to take care of his health or life because it is in danger. So in this resistant state, our organism is prepared to great effort. And we can be in this resistant state. Selye didn't say how long, yeah? Maybe weeks, maybe months, maybe even years. But when the stress is continuous, is longitudinal, it means that our organism cannot survive for such a long time. So we are going to this exhaustion state. Yeah? Without medical care, without some emergency help, we die. Yeah? So this is the way how longitudinal stress or continuous stress finishes with the death of our organism. Yeah? But of course, during this resistant state in our everyday life, during work, we have some short or longer times for recovery, yeah, for resting. Yeah? That is why we can survive in a longitudinal stress for many years. Yeah? Some less, some more, but we may work in a stressful place for many years. But after the resistant state, we can suffer from different diseases. I will tell in a couple of minutes about those diseases. They are usually related to our heart or our stomach or our mind or other places in our organism that didn't survive, that were injured. So this is not very optimistic way of thinking about stress, but we have also the idea of psychological stress. Richard Lazarus, a very famous psychologist, American psychologist, said that stress is not a reaction, it's more like a relation or reaction or transaction. So it depends on us how much stress we produce. It depends on our cognitive or mental assessment. So Lazarus said that psychological stress is a transaction between a person and an environment. When faced with a situation, a person evaluates the potential threat. Yeah? So it is about how we think about situations in our life, how we assess them, whether we assess them as stressful or not. So this is subjective phenomenon. Stress from this point of view is subjective phenomenon and will occur when we assess the situation as stressful. That is why we are different in stress management and in thinking about stress, in feeling stress. Yeah? There are inter and interpersonal differences in perception of stress. And Lazarus said that there are 4 stages of this relation. First is called a stressing factor, but it is not a stressing yet. Yeah? Some situation in our life. It might be, for example, stucking in a traffic jam, yeah? A situation. And then there is a crucial part of this relation. It means primary appraisal. Primary appraisal, so we analyze the situation and we assess the situation and say and classify this to the category of harm. So it means damage already occurring. So I'm frustrated, I'm angry because I'm in this traffic jam situation. Yeah? I feel frustration, I'm very angry. I think that now I feel that I lose my time is precious for me, so this is the harm situation, the harm classification. Of course, I can also think about future negative consequences. This is the threat category. Yeah? The harm may happen in the future. Because I'm stuck in this traffic jam, I think about future negative consequences. I will be late, something happens, and so on, so on. Yeah? So I produce different emotions. Yeah, I think about future negative consequences, so I can be anxious. Maybe I'm afraid of these consequences. So this is also stressing part of this assessment. And I can also classify the situation as irrelevant. It happens, I got used to this, or even challenging. When I have my workshops with, for example, well-being officers, they say, we always, in such a situations, relax. We think about relaxation, we do mindfulness, or we do some nice for our bodies and minds. Yeah? So even this situation might be challenging. So when it is categorized as irrelevant or challenging, there is no third stage. There is no stress reaction. And there is no also secondary appraisal. But because if we are stressed, it doesn't mean that we panic, that we don't know what to do. The fourth stage means secondary appraisal, so we choose the specific style, the specific strategy of coping with the situation. And we have a lot of different strategies or a lot of different styles, so we choose one of these and cope with the stressful situation. So from this point of view, you can see that stress is, from one side, a natural reaction. We cannot get rid of this. And from the other side, we can do something with it because we produce our stress because we think about the situations in a specific way. Work-related stress is defined by many institutions, national, international, as well in a scientific literature, from this second perspective, like psychological, more transactional psychological stress. So this transactional model is defined as a mental state which occurs when individual experiences that demands of the work environment exceed the worker's ability to cope or to control it. Yeah? So if we imagine that on one hand we have our resources or our abilities, our knowledge, time, people, budget, everything, these are our resources. And on the other hand, we have work demands. Yeah? And we assess it, these two categories. And when they are in a balance, there's no stress. But when we perceive that the work demands are high, for example, we have less budget, or one person said that I cannot be in your team, or less time, yeah. So the demands are going up. Then we struggle with stress. Then we suffer from work-related stress. Then we feel that we are losing control over this particular demand or these demands of our workplace. So this is what we call work-related stress. So now I'm going to the consequences. I'm starting with the individual consequences that are related to our health, our physical health. The most important, or we may say the most crucial, are coronary diseases, yeah? Cardiovascular diseases, coronary disease, arrhythmia, hypertension, strokes, arteriosclerosis, other cardiovascular diseases are related to stress. Now we know that more or less 40% of all heart attacks are related to stress, to longitudinal stress. The rest has different sources, but 40% are because we are stressed for too long. Yeah? We suffer from chronic stress for many months or years, and then it is usually finished with some problems with heart. Also, we know that musculoskeletal pains and impairments are related to longitudinal stress. Yeah? These are consequences. I told you that during this resistant state, our muscles are tensed. And the consequence of longitudinal stress is musculoskeletal pain, usually related to our neck and upper back, sometimes lower back, but usually this area suffers a lot because we are stressed for many, many hours every day. Digestive system dysfunctions. When we are stressed, our digestive system stops working because our energy is going to muscles. That is why we after many years of living like that, yeah, we can, or sometimes months, not years, we finish with some kind of stomach duodenum diseases like ulcers or other diseases. Now we also know that diabetes that are related mostly to females. Yeah? So the relation is more to women than men. This is from the research, from medical research. Also skin problems, allergies, decrease of immunity, and now there is a lot of talk about autoimmune diseases that are related to longitudinal stress. And migraines, some of us suffer from migraines, especially after stressful days. So physical health, then mental health, the second part of consequences, mental health. When we are in a stressful situations for many years, we can suffer, and usually we suffer from some kind of neurosis, especially anxiety neurosis, when there is a lot of stress or when the stress is very high. So we can suffer from anxiety neurosis, sometimes obsessive compulsive neurosis, and also depression. Of course, there are different sources of depression, but longitudinal stress is one of those sources. Addictions are the product of not very creative way of coping with stress. Many of us try to work with stress using, for example, drinking a beer or a wine, to calm down, or using sometimes some pills for sleep to calm down. So if we start to use these drugs or products every day because we want to lower our stress reactions, then it might be like a loop. We start, the problem produces stress. It's like a loop. It should be the effect or the way how we cope with stress, but it starts to be the source of stress. So alcohol and drugs, especially pills for sleepiness, and then pills to wake up. This is the loop which is observed as a consequence of stress. And social relationships disorders, again, they might be the effect of longitudinal stress, and it is observable in many companies that when there is a lot of stress, the morale is going down, and then these dysfunctional situations occur, like mobbing, bullying, harassment, or violence, and they produce a lot of stress and different consequences of stress. And burnout syndrome is also the consequence of longitudinal stress. Burnout syndrome is defined as a state that crystallizes slowly over a longer period of time and experiencing constant stress and engaging all life energy. So it means that burnout is for those people who like their jobs, so for most of us, and ultimately it harms motivation, beliefs, and behavior. Christine Maslach, maybe you've heard about her, she is the author of the most famous theory of burnout. That burnout is divided into three categories or three components: emotional exhaustion, that we feel low emotions, we feel negative emotions; depersonalization, it means that we don't like people we meet with. We treat them more like subjects or cases, not like people, and we don't want to be in relations with them. We are tired of them. And reduce personal accomplishment, it means that we don't believe that we can be succeeded in the future. Now there is a talk, maybe 2 years ago there was more talk about burnout syndrome, and in the last revision of International Classification of Disease, ICD, the revision, now it's the 11th version. The new ICD-11 definition of burnout is a syndrome conceptualized as a resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. It's very good for us, occupational psychologists, because it opens the way to legislation for burnout syndrome. Now, it depends on the employer whether there will be some kind of research or some kind of surveying about this or not, and some interventions. But maybe in the future, the employer will be obliged to do something to prevent burnout syndromes. So the consequences, physical, mental, social consequences for us, yeah, and for our workplaces, for our relations. But also, when we talk about stress, we can look into costs, so financial consequences of stress at workplace. What we know, every couple of years, European Agency for Safety and Health at Work publishes some reports about mental health, and sometimes they are related to stress. In 2009, the report about cost of stress was published, and it was stated that for European countries, the cost of stress is 20 billion euro annually. After 4 years, we have the cost of on the level of 617 billion euro annually. And it is related with absenteeism and presenteeism. I will explain what is presenteeism in a few minutes. Loss of productivity, healthcare costs, and social welfare costs related to disability benefit and payments. So 617. Is it a lot or not? Yeah, we can have the feeling that it might be a lot, but still, it is not the way how we can introduce stress management to directors or senior management in companies. Yeah, this is a number, and we don't know how much of this we have to pay. Yeah, when we talk about international costs or micro costs, we should also add to those costs of stress cost of the adverse health problems due to chronic stress. I told you about cardiovascular diseases, about musculoskeletal pains, about diabetes, about depression. These diseases also are very costly. You can see here some data from different countries, as well as some estimations of data for European Union countries. When it comes to cardiovascular diseases, we can see that 5 to even 17% of all healthcare costs are related to cardiovascular diseases, to help people with cardiovascular diseases. And Poland, Estonia, and Latvia are in the highest costs. So we have to pay, like we all the citizens have to pay healthcare costs. And 17 in Czech is 14% of all these costs are going to people who suffer from cardiovascular diseases. Musculoskeletal alignments. Here you can see also the costs, as well as the information that now it's more or less about 2% of GDP. Depression and depression disorders are, of course, related with other sources, not only longitudinal stress and workplace stress, but it is going high, and depression is very costly disease. Even to 3% of GDP in latest reports, American reports. And diabetes, we don't have enough research to say how it works in a specific countries. We have a lot of research in Germany and in Netherlands, so we can estimate the costs for European countries on the level of 19 billion euro annually. And yeah, we also have data from United States and Canada that the costs of diabetes increase. So costs of stress, costs of consequences of stress, these are the societal costs, international costs, national costs. What about organization? What about employer? How to say the senior management, you should do something with this because it is costly. So when we talk about organizational costs of stress, we can establish them as well as we can establish the societal costs. What we should do, we should analyze the cost of absenteeism. Yeah, in a minute I'll tell you how much of this cost we should establish. So cost of substitution in case of absence, these are the costs related to stress. Then decrease in productivity and cost of presenteeism. Presenteeism is defined as a as a phenomenon that occurs inside the company. If you are so tired and so exhausted, but still you are going to your company, to your work, this is presentism. So you should stay at home because you are tired, you are sick, you are overworked, but you still go to your work and do something, which is not very productive, but you are at work. This is presentism. And nowadays, when we talk a lot about hybrid work as well as work from home, presentism is probably 6 times more frequent than absenteeism. So the costs of presentism are 6 times higher. Accidents at work, the cost of damages in machine material as well as compensation for employees. These are also related to stress and too much stress. Staff turnover, retention, attrition, and all staffing processes are related to stress. Cost of sabotage and other counterproductive behavior. Counterproductive behavior is the behavior that is observed in a high stressful work placements when people feel that they are so stressed and the employer do nothing, that they want to revenge. It's like a kind of revenge. So do something negative, maybe steal something, maybe don't send the message or purposefully decrease the communication because they want revenge. They want the employer to suffer like they suffer. So it is observed in highly stressful workplaces. Cost of medical services, medical care in some organizations, in some countries, it is obligatory. Cost of lawsuits in case of mobbing or ill health problems, as well as cost of PR or employer branding, because the morale is low and we need to improve the image of our organization on the market. So these costs, these issues should be analyzed when we talk about the cost of stress in the organization. There are some publications that say how much is that. But of course, it's easier to say how much is that in United States. So we can say that the medium level is 660 per employee per year. It's not so easy to say this to European countries because we are very different ways of establishing those costs, and also establishing the cost of healthcare and so on. So here in Europe, we may say not maybe about the medium level, but maybe the range between 350 and 1,800 per employee per year. These are this is the information from a couple of, I may say, even thousands or a couple of hundreds reports that I analyzed. Even in Germany, we have reports that say 2,800 euro per employee per year. This is the cost of stress. How it was established for an organization, not for the society. How it was established. In 2002, there was a very interesting model published by Tangri, and he said that if you don't have particular data from a specific company, you may estimate the cost. As you can see, total cost of worker compensations lawsuit because of stress. You have to put in this model 60% of total workplace accidents. Now we know that the contribution is different in different institutions, in different sectors, but more or less we may say that 60% of all workplace accidents are directly or indirectly related to stress. 10% of drug plan costs, 19% of absenteeism, now it's higher, 40% of all turnover costs, 55% of employee assistance programs, and 30% of short or long-term disability. This is model. Of course, we can put it into organizational environment, but it would be better to have direct costs from a particular company. We have also now, when you analyze a lot of papers about that, you may find that this model is, shows some percentages, but there are also other models. So if you analyze all of them, you may find some micro-level establishments. So 60 to 80% of all workplace accidents are related to stress, or directly or indirectly. 30 to 40% of absence is related to stress and mental problems. Yeah? So I remind you about presenteeism, that is probably 6 times more costly than absence. 8 to 40% of turnover is related to stress and workload. 10 to 20% of all work-related ill health costs are related to stress. Yeah? So if we don't have particular data, we can use these data to establish, or more maybe to estimate, the cost of stress inside the company. And we know that it is between 350 and 1,800 euro per employee per year. We have also some kind of macro level data. 10 to 15, even 17 in some countries, % of social costs are related to heart diseases. 1 to 3% of GDP spent on depression treatment, and costs of mental illness are increasing since the middle of pandemic time. So these are the costs, organizational costs and societal costs of stress, as well as the consequences. So shortly, to finish my speech today, what can we do about this? Yeah, this is not the core of my presentation today during this conference, but what can we do? Of course, we can implement some interventions, stress management interventions that are aimed to reduce or eliminate sources of stress. And if it's too late, because there is too much stress inside the company, we can also implement some intervention that help individuals to recover and develop methods in the future of coping with stress. Yeah? So these interventions are well-planned and organized interventions. They should be in a strategy of a company. They should have budget, and then they might be profitable. Yeah? So because I was talking about cost of stress, maybe we should compare cost of stress with the cost of interventions, because we have to pay for interventions. So again, we have a lot of papers about that. We have a lot of reports. We have a lot of scientific publications. So if you analyze all of them, you can have the idea how on which level, or how much does it cost, or are they costly or not. So Karsio and Boudreau say that it is between 70 to 130% dollars per employee per day per year. And in Europe, UOSHA said or established is on the level of 400 euro per employee per year. There are also other research. There was an intervention, there was cost of the intervention, and here you can see the examples of those papers, that the intervention costed between 275 and 580, 400, 465. So different numbers, different costs, but somehow between 200 and 600 euro per employee per year. So it means that the cost of intervention is more or less, if we analyze the mean, the medium level, they are less costly than the cost of stress, because it was 350 till 1,800. And here we have about 300-400 euro per employee per year. Also, we have a lot of publications, a lot of papers about profits. So this is not only a cost, this is investment. If we invest in a stress management intervention, in such programs, we can also have profits from those investments. And there are a lot of papers about that. Yeah, these are some examples of papers that are related to calculation of cost of human resources management. And every time when we have those analyses, we can find that there are usually profits than costs. But of course, if we want to have profits, yeah, you can see the specific numbers of those profits, how much they gain in a year or in a couple of years in advance. But if we want to have those profits, we should be aware that we need occupational health management inside the company. So knowledge how to plan, organize, implement, and assess intervention. We need also tools, psychological questionnaires, surveys, HR databases, break-even analysis. We need those to assess properly the costs and the effects. Yeah? We need usually interdisciplinary knowledge and cooperation. So health and safety knowledge, human resources knowledge, controlling analysis, financial specialists, we need them to establish and to implement the intervention. And cooperation and support from top management, middle management, as well as participants. To finish, to sum up everything, I may say that after 20 years of researching, I may say that if we want to count on the national institutions, we shouldn't. Yeah, we can observe them and support them, but European Framework Agreement was implemented in 2004, so almost 20 years ago, and nothing happened till that time to oblige employers to take care of stress of their workers. Yeah, so these are guidelines, usually guidelines or some encouragements, but not obligations. In 2004, European Framework Agreement signed by employers and social partners to increase the awareness and understanding of employers, workers, and their representatives on work-related stress, to draw attention to signs that could indicate mental health problems. Yeah? There were some actions, but not on the institutional level. More like, exchanging best practices, some well-being contests, some actions that are more encouragement, motivated by employers or employees, but not oblige employers to do something. In 2022, so quite new, World Health Organization published guidelines on mental health at work. So they analyzed how to implement evidence-based interventions. Yeah. So what works and what not work a lot good. So they gave employers and institutions some kind of recommendation how to promote mental health, prevent mental health condition, and enable people living with mental health conditions to participate and thrive in work. So again, guidelines, encouragements, not the obligations. We have institutions that deal with it, but still they are more encourage us to do something. Yeah, we have World Health Organization, we have International Labour Organization. Sometimes it says something about stress. We have also European Agency for Safety and Health at Work, EUOSHA. We have Eurofound that every couple of years conducts the research European Working Conditions Survey and gives us information about workplaces. And also we have national institutions, Here I found in Czech Republic 2 institutions, Occupational Safety Research Institute and National Labor Inspectorate, that sometimes deal with stress, not always, but sometimes maybe there are some representatives, they can give us more feedback. In Poland, we have 3 organizations, but they are not very active. Yeah, we have Central Institute of Labor Protection. We have the Council, Rada Ochrony Pracy. This is the representatives that help the government to make some decisions, but they don't talk about stress almost at all. And National Labor Inspectorate, who is more engaged in health and safety. The best institutions in Europe are Health and Safety Executive, English, the top of the top. Yeah, they establish the standards how to deal with stress. Yeah, they produce a lot of information how to implement stress management interventions inside the company. They have a lot of workshops. Yeah, the tools that are free to download and use in a company. In Germany, Bauer. In Italy, INAIL is very, very active. In Switzerland, in Scandinavia, we have also institutions that are very active. And in Belgium, we have very interesting institution that is related to National Labor Inspectorate. This is Directorate General Control of Well-being at Work. So I would like to have this institution in my country as well. Thank you very much for the attention. I hope you don't look like these people. Yeah. And so if you have any questions, yeah, I'm here till tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for interesting presentation. But now is space for your questions, if you want.
I thought I might.
My question is, did you find some, let's say, differences between stress in public organization or business organizations, or I think between big companies and SME companies? Are there some differences in this coping of stress and the stressful jobs?
Yeah. May I answer? Yeah? Or should I wait for all the questions? May I answer? Yeah? The sources of stress are different. And when it comes to stress management interventions, it is better in large organizations than in institutions, than in small or medium-sized organizations. The small organizations are out of budget, we may say. Yeah, medium and large are better. Yeah, they have a lot of interventions. They have some benefits. Yeah, they have budget for this, so it's better in these kind of organizations. But the sources of stress are different in institutions or in public organizations than in private ones. Yeah, but generally, it's better in private sector.
Thank you for a nice presentation. Everything you said is, I would say, from the point of view of an employee, 100% true. I miss the balance. I miss the balance in the focus of what is with the employer, what is with the entrepreneur. So first idea is an additional suggestion is for me an opportunity cost thinking. From which break even is it interesting for a company to make an invention? Maybe Darwin was not wrong, and welfare is not everything in a company.
Yeah. So the question is, should we do this? Because I'm not sure about the question.
I miss the balance, a pure focus on employees. Where is the focus, what it means for an employer? From which money, time, situation is it interesting to invest in? Or is it interesting for an employer to have a welcome company to sleep or to work and to be profitable? From which time on? From zero? Or when an employer should act? I miss a break-even point.
the balance, yeah?
Yes, I think from zero is not important. There are people who want to work and there are people who don't want to work, and there are people quicker in stress and less in stress.
Yeah.
So from which platform on you should make an invention?
Yeah. So I think you talk about individual perspective. Of course, we are different in stress management, but still there is a group of stressor that put a hand or that make injuries, mental or physical injuries to all of us. Yeah, this presentation was about costs and consequences. So I put the emphasis that this is important for employer to do something because it's better for their finances to do something. But of course, there's also the human side, and a lot of companies don't look on the finances. They don't know how much they can have profits from those interventions. They are not even interested in this. Yeah, they put a lot of effort and money for different benefits, for different interventions, and they do not analyze how much they can have from this. So this, you may say, humanistic point of view. So like CSR idea, yeah. So to help people without thinking how much we can have the profits from this, yeah. Yeah, so this was the idea of my presentation, to show you that it might be worth economic investment or way of thinking, yeah, because many times I can hear from HR managers or senior managers that stress is something individual, something subjective. We are not able to measure it. We are not able to do something with it because it is individual. And it's not like that. It is also possible to measure it and to implement the intervention that help most of people or a group of people to feel better and to be more productive and to increase the benefits, yeah? Mm-hmm. Did I answer your question or not?
From your side, yes.
Okay, sorry. We can discuss later if you want.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for a nice presentation. I love it. I have just two questions. One is you speak about this fight or flight effect.
Yeah.
So I would say, is it measured some kind of like healthy amount of stress? Because if you are not stressed at all, maybe you are kind of lethargic. So I understand that your presentation is about like overstressing, but if there is some measurement about like putting like in which part of the graph person is, and if to put. And the second question is, if the definition of the workplace stress, or I don't remember exactly, if it's like totally established, because there are demands as a main topic. But I would say, like in sport, people are more tired when they lose and less tired if they win. And some people, if they feel productive, they can work even in kind of stressful. Yeah. But if they feel unproductive, or if there's some chaos, or they feel that they work in vain, they may be more stressed, even if the demands or the amount of work is less. So these are my two questions.
Okay. So flight or fight effect, we may say that every time when we perceive that our life or health is in danger, there is this moment when we start this resistance state, yeah, or when we start this physiological stress, yeah, every time when we perceive this, yeah, even if it's not true, yeah, but every time when we perceive this is starting, yeah. And when it comes to work-related stress, this is the definition that is in many institutions, like in World Health Organization uses this definition. But as I mentioned at the beginning, I give you only two approaches of stress. There are more than two. For example, there is a theory, the approach that there are two types of stress, distress and eustress, and this eustress is the positive stress. Yeah, so we in this level of stress, we need some kind of encouragement, yeah, and it's good for us to have this level of stress. It is usually related with positive emotions, but when it's too much, yeah, we lose this positive moment, yeah. So this is more or less about this. But yeah, there are many definitions, and in papers you can find different definitions, more psychological, more physiological, more sociological. But yeah.
So we have got time for last question, Professor.
If people will use in the future more and more artificial intelligence, new technologies, will be there more stress, less stress, or the same level as now? What is your meaning about this problem?
I have no idea. And do you? Do you think? I have no idea. Yeah, it can produce stress. We talk, in 80s there was the definition of techno-stress, that the anxiety or the fear from technology. Now techno-stress is defined that overwhelmed technology, yeah, that a lot of technology, that we are not even have possibility to establish our skills, because if we establish them, new technology comes, and then we again have to analyze ourselves in terms of this. So I have no idea. I think, yeah, everything has two versions, two faces, yeah. Less and more, I don't know. I cannot answer. Yeah. I would like to have less stress, yeah, and I hope it will produce less stress, but I'm not sure. Yeah.
So, thank you very much again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please. So, and we will now continue with the next second presentation. I would like to welcome here Dr. Jan Kalina, and topic of his presentation is statistical method selection matters. Vanilla methods in regression may yield misleading results. Please.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me start by expressing my gratitude to the Dean of the Economic Faculty for the kind invitation to this conference. And I would like to thank also the team of the local organizers for the wonderful work and great help. Statistical analysis of data, that's definitely one of the challenges and opportunities in the digital world. That's the topic of this conference, Inproforum 2023. So statistical analysis, well, I've been working in a statistical methodology for also 20 years. I can admit statistics is refreshing for me, so no stress from work. But still, there is one aspect which is worrying, where we have to think seriously, and that is the topic of this message. Statistical method selection is important. We cannot think just very naively that when we have some data and we throw them to the computer, that this is enough and we get just the results and we can be 100% happy, and that's the end of our statistical analysis. For every particular problem, there exist several methods. Like one would be the very standard method, and many alternatives proposed with some motivations. And we never know in advance which method is the right tool for the analysis of our particular data. That's because the statistical methodology assumes on some assumptions. And we should think deeply if these are fulfilled, if the given method is appropriate for the given problem. So I will divide this presentation to 3 parts, where the first one is focused on one particular aspect, that's the presence of outliers in data. And the second and third are more applied or focused on one particular data set. But still keep in mind that the presentation is focused on the methodology, on properties of statistical methods. For illustration, let me start this first out of the 3 parts by some real example, which I published last year. World tourism was modeled in 140 countries of the world, where the number of international arrivals in individual countries was explained by 14 variables, which correspond to some preparedness or like theoretical, I would say, foundations, expectations, or level of business environment, safety and security, transport, infrastructure, and so on. So how these pillars reported by the World Economic Forum, like competitiveness, how do they influence the real tourism, so the number of arrivals of people from abroad? So we can naturally construct some regression model which is meaningful when we visualize the dependence of that response on this vertical axis, depending on individual pillars or predictors. So we can see there is some linear trend, and we want to estimate that. The questions we ask in such situations are: how well does the model explain the response variable? Which of the variables are the important ones? Are we able to evaluate the effect of individual variables? So the linear regression model is the most fundamental statistical model in econometrics. Is appropriate here, and the least squares would be the standard tool allowing to predict or to explain the response variable. So that looks very nicely, but the problem where we have the stress is we need to think about the assumptions. For example, do we need some distributional assumption on the random errors in the model? Do they need normal distribution? Do they need to have the same variability? What if there are outliers in the data? How does that influence the least squares estimator? What if some of the variables which are in the model, what if they are redundant? They don't contribute to the response. Does it matter? So such analysis leads us to maybe replacing the standard least squares by some alternative version. So now I'm going to skip from this world tourism data motivation, and I will show you only some illustrative examples, artificial data, where one particular aspect is discussed, and this should persuade you that outliers in the data, they harm the situation, and we should keep in mind that the standard regression tools are vulnerable with respect to outliers. That means that there exist some more advanced alternatives that are more appropriate for analyzing data contaminated by outliers, and perhaps you may prefer consulting with a statistician and using some robust method rather than just the ordinary least squares. So, of course, such data are very simplistic, but that's motivated by the need to visualize this. So we have just one response against one predictor, because I'm not able to draw multivariate pictures on the screen. So if the very clear linear trend is contaminated by these data, which are clearly very outlying, so it may be in some applications preferable not to believe the least squares, which is fitted somewhere middle between these two clusters of data, but the linear trend is very clearly found by this red robust version, which completely ignores the cluster of the outliers. That may be sometimes, not always, more appealing. Now, the same is true for nonlinear situations. So I've been heavily involved in neural networks in recent years at the Institute of Computer Science, but it's basically only a nonlinear version, nonlinear regression. So I don't need to explain how these nonlinear trends are obtained. These are simply some kind of a standard neural network for data which are artificially contaminated by this additional line in the bottom. And you can see that the red curve is shifted somehow more to the bottom than it should be. And once we shift to a robust version, the fit is much better, ignoring, again, this contamination. Okay, and analogous pictures were obtained in a similar way for other artificial situations with contamination there, and that would be the robust version, which is better, or this is quite analogous to the previous situation. So we can see robustness brings benefits. This is also true for so-called regression quantiles, which they've been known since 1970s, and they penetrate only slowly to economic applications. That means if the data look like this, you see the variability on the right is much larger compared to that on the left. So instead of fitting just one straight line, we may consider a set of lines. One is more above, one in the middle, and one in the bottom. That gives a more compact description of what is going on in that trend. And these regression quantiles, however, also may suffer from the outliers. And I suggested a robust version myself, and this should persuade you that this may be beneficial. So first of all, on some simple data, comparing standard quantiles and the robust one, there is no great difference, okay, but still no great difference. And now that would be an argument, such artificially constructed data, that we may prefer the robust version, because when the trend is very, very clearly going this way and there is some artificial contamination. We don't want to be deceived by that, but the top quantile, the standard one, is misled by that contamination, but in the robust version, we still are able to ignore that information, which is only ballast for the problem under interest. So these artificial data should only persuade you about the disadvantage of these methods, which I call vanilla methods. So speaking about vanilla methods, I think about vanilla ice cream. But I asked this artificial intelligence tool, which is now popular, ChatGPT, what it thinks about, first, what does it mean, vanilla? And if the idea is clear, speaking about vanilla methods in statistics compared to some more advanced methods. And I was very surprised how ChatGPT immediately well understood my idea. So the vanilla tools are like plain tools or conventional, very standard, also lacking in excitement. That's definitely true. Okay. So this was like the first part focused on contamination by outliers. And I'm going to go back to the world tourism dataset now and continue with some other aspects, criticizing some well-known vanilla approaches. So this is the slide which we had before, okay? Number of international arrivals modeled as the response of 14 pillars. We also had these pictures. Now, I'm focusing on this aspect, which is homoscedasticity, or the equality of variances of the random errors in the regression model. So clearly, this does not hold. That means the variability on the right here is larger compared to the variability on the left. So this assumption of homoscedasticity is clearly violated. We could perform formal hypothesis testing and using various tests. The p-values are very small, so the violation of that assumption is very large, extremely large, I would say. This is true also for some robust regression applied to this data set. So there's no problem with outliers in this world tourism data. So let's forget any robustness now and proceed just for the least squares. So the standard approach, which appears in every textbook, would model somehow this trend in the variances of the errors. And after such transform, the least squares would be fitted once more. And that would be the end of the analysis. I'm going to criticize this again. So there is some formula which, okay, needs to say how that variance of the errors increases together with increasing values of the predictors. So this is, I would say, reasonable. So the larger the response, the larger variability of the errors. So when we formally do that, we estimate the parameters in this transformed model, and we can also, again, test that homoscedasticity, and the p-value is so large, so the problem is removed, we can be happy. So I did such analyses, similar ones 20 years ago, but that's not the way how we should proceed, because we need to check if the transformed model is appropriate. So a very simple visualization in the transformed model using this vanilla approach, okay, the response against, again, that important pillar, there is no linear trend. Why do we estimate linear trend for such data? That's nonsense. So I don't recommend using such transformation. So for such data, it's much more reasonable using the regression quantiles. So this would not be the vanilla tool, okay? But still, they are much better for modeling such data because there is the strong heteroskedasticity, as we can see. So you see from this origin, the lines go very quickly upwards or more quickly or just very, very slowly. And that gives a compact overview of what is going on in the relationship of the response on the predictors. No need to consider the robust versions, which are very similar to the standard regression quantiles in this case. Yeah, so that would be everything in this second part, where the specific property of the data is a strong heteroskedasticity, and the transformation removing heteroskedasticity is not appropriate here, and the alternative tool, regression quantiles, would be more suitable than the transformation that is in every textbook. I don't think the regression quantiles penetrated to textbooks, basic textbooks of statistics or econometrics. And finally, the third and last part of the presentation considers also one real data set that is quite recent. There are last year elections in the United States analyzed by linear regression. So these are the elections to the House of Representatives, not the presidential elections, and pictures like that appear everywhere in the media. So I did not actually analyze data based on individual election districts, which we can see here, but only on the state level. So 50 states are the 50 observations now, and the result of the election now is the response, and it has this particular form. It's the percentage of popular vote, so percentage of the resulting votes for the Republican Party. And we want to model this by means of 8 demographic characteristics, which I selected. So models like that have appeared in the literature for past elections as well. So this should be meaningful to consider percentage of African American population for every state, or percentage of Hispanic and Latino population. What are other characteristics of the states? Population density, median age, somehow education, divorce rate, and religious affiliation is also important in the American context. We put this data to the regression model, and 78%, that's how much this model explains the variability of the response. So that's great. And we don't have a problem with heteroskedasticity now. And what is the stress for such result? This is a very controversial thing, even in such really simple simple model. Look at this, where we consider the population density. So definitely the larger population density, so these are the small states in New England where there are big cities. The popular vote of Republicans decreases there compared to the average in the remaining states, okay? That's clear. But still in this model, there is the opposite. So why is that? Why does the model think this is the opposite when also the picture reveals very clearly what's going on? That's because there are correlations among the regressors. Population density heavily is connected with other characteristics considered in the model. So we speak about multicollinearity. That's because when there are redundant variables, the model still can predict very well, but interpreting the individual parameters in the model may be misleading because the variability of the estimates is exploding. So these are like quite random numbers in the model, which is not appropriate. So the vanilla approach would be keep this model and be happy, okay? But the correct approach is to do some model building, model choice. There are tools which I used and found there are only 4 relevant predictors in the model, not the 8 original ones. The 2 of them are connected with the racial structure of the population, one with education. Education is highly correlated with the population density, and also church attendance, which is larger in the countryside. So, and considering only these variables decreases the explained variability only slightly, still 75% is explained of the response, perfect, and we have much more interpretable estimates of individual parameters. The numerical mathematics behind is much improved. So I focused also on other aspects, but the main message here is in this model selection. So concerning outliers, so yes, there are 2 severe outliers. For some reasons, we can always interpret in a more detail what's going on, why some state is outlying. In South Dakota, the Democratic candidate did not run in the election at all. Of course, this influences the results. And Hawaii is very different in the demographic structure of the population. So, but still, omitting these 2 states from the model, that did not help with this multicollinearity problem I mentioned. So even after removing the outliers, we still have to do the model selection. Let's look also at the confidence intervals for the response. Now, this should persuade you that model selection is beneficial. So, this plot, there are 50 states, and they are arranged in the order of increasing width of the confidence interval for the response. So, for example, Ohio, the model says that the popular vote for Republicans would be between 54 and 59%. That's the narrowest. So for the full model, these are black points, and for the submodel with 4 variables only, these are red ones. So they are always narrower. So that's more reliable. The result in the submodel is more reliable. That means when we forget some information, do we lose actually something? No, we improve the model. So it's like the statistics is about transforming information to knowledge, to useful knowledge, explaining, interpreting. And we have the tendency to think this digital revolution and big data, the more information, the better. But it's not true. Because if there are redundant variables, so the extra information makes the modeling worse. We improve the results by forgetting the information. So the data are, okay, our partner in the modeling, fine, but they are also our enemy, and we need to fight against this information. That's what is statistics about, okay? That's the opportunity in the and challenge in the digital world to fight against redundancy, to focus on the very crucial information, to finding the signal in the middle of noise and chaos. So I can skip other aspects. So the model selection, going from the vanilla model with all the variables to the submodel, improves the interpretation of the results. It removes the numerical problems with multicollinearity. It improves the confidence intervals, which are interesting for us for predictions. Okay. So, of course, such study is limited because the predictors are only simplistic, but still the message is very clear in this case. So I can conclude the talk, which had 3 parts. So the first part considered mainly artificial data and was focused on contamination by outliers, robust versions of some statistical methods were beneficial there. In the second part, the world tourism data were influenced by different variability of different errors in the model, and there the suggestion was not to use the generalized least squares, but rather the regression quantiles. And the third part analyzed the American elections, and there the message was to perform the model building and fighting against redundant variables. So on the whole, as I said in the beginning, finding the appropriate statistical method is important, and thinking about the assumptions, working hard in the model selection, that improves the results and the credibility of the analysis. All the models which we use are only an approximation of the reality, so we should interpret the results also with care. We cannot heavily rely on the results, but these are like suggestions obtained with some level of uncertainty, randomness. So the conclusion, this is like message on which the science and our society is standing. Socrates said, I know that I know nothing, but now we should say, I know that I know nothing certainly, only with some error or uncertainty because of uncertainty in the data, in the models, in the computations. That's my message. So thank you, and I will be happy to answer any questions.
So, thank you very much for your presentation. Now it's time for your questions.
Thank you very much for your insightful presentation. You have recommended the use of regression quantiles.
Yes.
Against the generalized least squares method.
For the particular data, yes, it's a different concept, and it may give you different information. But of course, like, I don't give very general recommendations only for this particular data.
Okay. So I would like you to comment on just how effective is the log transformation of the data in addressing the issue of heteroskedasticity?
Well, the log transform may be sometimes very suitable, but if the data are heteroskedastic, like in our case, so after the log transform, I'm afraid there would still retain some level of heteroskedasticity. It would be improved, but not perfectly. So maybe it's not a general recommendation to do always this log transform.
Thank you so much for your...
Okay.
Yes, thank you so much for your nice presentation. I hope my question will not be an outlier, but it is mentioned in your presentation that the church attendance in the rural areas is larger.
Okay.
So I would be interested in knowing what might account for that. But because it's been mentioned in your presentation, so do you have any reason for that?
So what is precisely the question? Why the church attendance contributes to explaining the election result?
That is, in the rural areas is larger. The attendance in the rural areas.
Well, the conservative voters are not in the large cities, which are on the other hand liberal. So the church attendance is larger in the, where is the map? in the south, for example, is the largest. Okay, and these are also the states where, well, we don't see, this is not the good map for this, but except for the seashore, the Republicans win basically across the whole country. Yes, so only the seashore, which is democratic, there is the lower church attendance. That's the idea.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask about the robustness? Because in the first case, you said that contamination can be eliminated by this method. But if you mixed two data sets, like, for example, mortality, men and women, or like danger of COVID, and you mixed like different ages, and the two data sets are more or less the same, your method would be obviously like ignoring something, but would the result reveal that you mixed the data, or you need to, like, by ANOVA or some sort, find before? Because you said I can eliminate contamination, but if you mix two relevant big data sets together, would your method reveal it or not? So
the robust method is not designed to reveal this, but it could actually reveal it if you use it appropriately. So you could see that in some diagnostic plots, but you should know in advance how the data are obtained. So you should know this, that there's a mixture, and you may like try some cluster analysis, for example, to see if the data set is really naturally divided to two groups, and then you have a problem because the robustness is against outliers but not against mixing two populations.
I have a question. I understood that you dealt now with neural networks.
Yes.
I read many articles which used neural networks for regression analysis too. What is your opinion on this? Or can you compare statistical methods which in regression and neural networks? I know it's very difficult because it's individual, but if you can maybe some remark to this.
So for data sets like these ones, you cannot use neural networks because the data sets are very small. When they are very large, statistics is not sufficient. That would collapse. So these are designed for different contexts or different data sizes. But your question assumes there is like some conceptual difference between statistics and neural networks, but that's the one world only captured by different people. For me, neural network is statistics. It's not different. It's just nonlinear regression model, which is fully parametric. So we specify the regression function up to the knowledge of a finite number of parameters. So that's precisely the same what students study in nonlinear regression. The regression function is specified with 2 or 3 parameters. So only the model is larger, it's hierarchical, and the number of parameters is larger, but still we need some least squares to train these parameters. And this is done in the hierarchical structure through this backpropagation, going back and forth, but still it's the statistical estimation task in a probabilistic setup.
Maybe interpretation is also difficult in the neural network.
Extremely difficult, yes. Impossible.
So, thank you very much
for
your answers. I would like to thank you for all presentations.
Thank you.
And I would like to close this plenary sessions. We have now time for lunch, and then we will continue from 1 o'clock, separate sessions here in this building. Thank you very much.
Thank you.